going to a spot where I can sit. And where I can read what I've written. And this piece that I'm introducing now to you, my audience, is going to be about audiences. And whoever is going to see this or is going to hear me, whoever is going to hear and see all this beauty, and who is going to hear my voice and my mood, that person is going to be my audience. And that person is not only going to be my audience, but that person is going to be an audience of him or herself, because I am my own audience. And when you listen to me, whoops, I gotta walk around this sprinkler here. I don't want to get sprayed on. When you listen to me, you hear a person who is his own audience, and who's perfectly fine being his own audience. I don't need you as my audience, because I have embodied language. I listen to myself while I speak. Yeah. So, there's a lot of sprinklers going on here, and I have to somehow see if I can walk around those without getting sprayed on. Let's see how we do that. Look at this here. Okay, I believe I can manage. Because this is the spot where I want to sit. There's a nice bench here, and that is a good spot for me to read what I've written. Here's a nice quiet place here in the forest. So, put my bicycle. Here we go. Yep. Isn't that nice? And this is a great spot for people to come with their dog. Then their dog can take a jump in the water. But of course, if you want to take a dip in the water yourself, like I sometimes do, then you go and take a nice refreshing dive. Not today. Today I'm just going to sit there on this beautiful bench, which seems to have been put here especially for me. So, as I was saying, I am my own audience. And we have completely misunderstood what it is like to be our own audience. We've talked about being conscious of yourself, being aware of yourself, or self-conscious, or being mindful, But we've never addressed the real issue, which is of course listening to yourself while you speak. And listening to yourself while you speak means that you speak and listen simultaneously, and you do not run ahead of yourself. You are not pressuring yourself to say something. You are not repeating what you have already said. You are actually saying something new because you are alive. Yeah, you are alive, hopefully. You're breathing, and you are in the here and now, and you hear your voice in the here and now, and you produce the sound in the here and now. And so you listen to yourself in the here and now, and that is what presence means. That is what consciousness means. And your language expresses correctly what you are saying, and that of course is a positive feeling. So yeah, you are your own audience. You feel good. You are positive. You are clear. You're calm. You're regulated. So your language regulates you. Your correct language, which is embodied language, it regulates you. Yeah, and that's totally different from the language that you are used to, that you are familiar with, that you hear everywhere, in which people do not listen to themselves. They make other people listen. They want other people to listen. They demand that other people must listen to them. And they do all kinds of things to get other people to listen. Oh my goodness. But they're not listening to themselves. Even if other people are listening to them, they're not listening to themselves. And even the most presumably intelligent people, even the most powerful people, the most successful people, the most smart people, yeah, it doesn't matter how highly educated you are. People do not listen to themselves while they speak. We are all used to this particular way of talking, which I call disembodied language, because when you do not listen to yourself, your language happens in a way which is not having you in the driving seat of your language. Yeah, you are not the one. You're not the one who uses your language. You are not. Yeah, you're not in charge of your language. No, you have some strange, awkward perception of language, as if language is happening to you. But language is not happening to you. If you do not speak, there's no language. If I do not speak, there's nothing for you to listen to. And if you do not write or read, there is no language. So being without language is your natural way of being. And being with language is only when you engage in verbal behavior. Yeah? And you could compare it. Let's say, for instance, I come originally from the Netherlands. I immigrated to the United States in 1999. It doesn't make any sense for me to be here and to speak Dutch. Of course, for my own, you could say, memory, it makes a little bit of sense to still sometimes speak Dutch. But for the most part, I speak English because this is where we speak English. And so my Dutch language doesn't work here. Yeah. And so if I want to be in charge of my language, I have to change from Dutch to English. And when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Yeah. So, but that means, if you are bilingual, as I am, that means that you are in charge of your language. I can shift to the Dutch language easily. Yeah, if you want me to say something in Dutch, I can say it. Shall I do that? Okay. I'm talking with myself, so I'm just letting myself know that I can still say something in Dutch. Ik kan nog steeds iets in het Nederlands zeggen als ik dat wil. I was just saying, I can still talk Dutch. I can still say something in Dutch if I want to. And that in and of itself shows that I'm in charge of my language. And that language is not covert, that language is not inside of me. No, that language is spoken and heard. I just heard myself say something in Dutch. Yeah. So So language is always overt, yeah? No matter where you go. And if you cannot stick to the overt nature of language, you're not in charge of your language. Language just seems to happen to you, but that's all fantasy. That is fantasy, yeah? Let's say, for instance, let's just assume that I do not speak the English language, okay? And I'm here in America, and I do not know English language. I only have the memory of Dutch language. Well, then yeah, then there's a problem. Because that memory, that fantasy of how the Dutch language was when I was in the Netherlands is not working for me here. You get what I'm saying? And I imagine what it would be like to have that language again here, but all my imagination is not going to make it happen. Unless I meet one Dutch person or something with whom I can speak Dutch. But usually that doesn't happen. Mostly I meet Americans or English-speaking people. And yes, of course you can say there are, you know, I can of course go and find some Dutch people to talk with and all that. There must be some Dutch community somewhere. But no, I'm an American. I have become an American. I have left my Dutch audience. And yeah, that's how life goes. And I guess all the people that I'm directing this language to are English-speaking people, because, yeah, I know that a lot of Dutch people speak English, so they can still hear this. But yeah, those people that do not speak English, they cannot understand this. And their understanding of this is not because of something that goes on inside of me or that goes on inside of them. No, it is because they hear what I'm saying. So listening to this is simply the same as understanding what it is that I'm saying. Yeah. So all of that has to do with being your own audience. Yeah. Now, okay, now I'm going to read to you what I've written. I hope it doesn't bore you, and if it does, that's a good sign. Because, yeah, if you do not feel bored, it means that you are not getting from me as a speaker what you usually get from the speaker who has disembodied language. I'm not trying to entertain you. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to make you do things to convince you. I'm not even actually trying to explain anything to you. I'm my own audience, and I'm speaking with myself. I'm here by myself, and I like to talk with myself. I like to use my language in this particular way. And I like to be here, yeah. And if you listen to me, you are here with me. And being here with me means that you are here with me when I use language, but you're also here with me when I don't use language, when I'm done with language, when I'm done with my embodied language. Are you ready to have me read something? Because reading something is of course different than talking off the cuff like this. But since I like what I have written, I'm going to read it to you. And not to you, to me, to myself. Just a second. Whoa. there's another sprinkler coming on, and it sprinkles in the bushes here just behind me, but luckily it doesn't go as far that it reaches this bench. Otherwise I would be totally sprinkled here. Let me just have a looky. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a... Oh, it here. This is the big sprinklers here. Yep. Just imagine that I would be sitting there, and I would just get totally sprayed on. Okay, I guess I'm safe. I had to check it out to make sure that I'm okay. So. Major complications occur because in disembodied language, our usual way of talking, in which we hope to be listened to and understood by others, or in which we try to make others listen to us, but we don't listen to ourselves. So yeah, that causes major complications. Do you get it, audience? Major complications occur because in disembodied language, our usual way of talking, we hope to be listened to and understood by others, and we try to make them listen to us, but we don't listen to ourselves. As a result of us remaining busy with others, we are defensive, on guard, pretentious, reactive, argumentative, irritated, stressed. Consequently, in our usual disembodied language, which is our common group behavior, our common and our ancient group behavior, our involuntary behavior, in our disembodied language, we for the most part, we listen more than speak. Yeah. We listen more than speak, yeah. Because other people dominate the conversation. Yeah. In disembodied language, there are only a very few people that do all the talking. And most people are reduced to merely being listeners. So you, in disembodied language, whether you know it or not, even when you are in power, even if you are in charge, when you are the hot shot, when everybody listens to you, you're still listening more to others than to yourself. You're not listening to yourself. So, people in disembodied language, they try to dominate, exploit, manipulate, and control each other. They try to force each other. Their words are more important than what the other person is saying. They are right, others are wrong. That's the argument, that's the conflict, that is the endless competition for who will win the battle for attention of the audience. So other people, they dominate the conversation, and everybody basically is reduced to listening to others. In disembodied language, when I just tell you what is listening, when I just ask you what is listening, what I hear, it is just behind me. I'm good. When I ask you, tell me what is listening, in disembodied language, people inadvertently say that listening is listening to others. Nobody says that listening is listening to yourself. So, in disembodied language, in our usual way of talking, listening to others, to the audience. Other people are the audience. You are not your own audience. No. So listening to others means you're not listening to yourself. So in disembodied language, other listening excludes self-listening. Whereas in embodied language, that's what I have. In embodied language, self-listening includes other listening. I can only listen to you if I listen to myself. And if I do not listen to myself, I'm not really listening to you. And in disembodied language, nobody is really listening to anybody. We just make it seem as if we're listening to each other. Now here come some people to let their dogs in the water. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
That's a nice spot for your dog to go take a swim. There you go. Yeah, they like it. Isn't that nice? Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Taking a quick dip here.
Okay. Maybe since these people are here with the whole family, I'm just going to continue walking down this path here to continue making my recording. It's okay, they can. There's another spot where hopefully I can sit. And this is a beautiful path here also to go on. I like to go here. So yeah, as I was saying, in disembodied language, other listening excludes self-listening. But in embodied language, in which we listen to ourselves while we speak, self-listening includes other listening. Isn't that pretty here? It's so idyllic. Maybe I can sit here. This is a good spot, yes. Oops. I'll put my bicycle here. Okay. Yeah, this is a wonderful spot here. Oops. So I continue. People that dominate the conversation, and the majority of people, oh yeah, this is another aspect of disembodied language. The majority of the people, they still have the common conditioning to know their place and to only speak if it is allowed for them to speak, and to only compete with others if they manage to win the battle for the attention of the audience. So if there's no chance for you to win the battle for the attention, then you end up just being a listener. And yeah, you still speak, but you don't listen to yourself. You always speak to get other people to listen to you, and you never actually speak in order to be able to listen to yourself. When I speak with myself, like I do right now, I produce the sound which I like to hear. And if you have embodied language, you speak with yourself in exactly the way that you want to sound, that you want to speak. I just need to get my bicycle out of the way here because there's still people passing by sometimes, and I don't want my bicycle to be in their way. So okay, now I can continue with my reading. It is such a nice place here. I love it. Here's all these roots from these trees are sticking above the ground because the sides of the creek is of course eroding or being washed away. In the winter there's much more water in this creek It comes all the way to where I'm pointing here, to where these roots are exposed. But right now there's only a small stream. Okay, so yeah, we have that conditioning to know our place and to adhere to the way of talking in which certain speakers presumably are more important than others, and that's why they are allowed to do all the talking. And you're not to interfere with them, you're not to argue, you're not to disrupt the conversation. And yes, of course you can. Of course you can start screaming and you can start competing and you can start arguing. And then you get all that, who is allowed to talk. But all of that is disembodied language, and that has been going on forever. We want our audience to pay attention to us. We want to dominate the narrative with what we believe, what we hold to be true. And then, in the history of mankind, we are still celebrating the 250th birthday of the United States. After 250 years of arguing, hopefully to some people here in the United States, as my audience, it will become clear that, yes, we have the freedom of speech and we have the ability to disagree, and we're not going to kill each other over the fact that we have different ways of viewing things, and yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not oppressing each other. No, we have freedom of speech, so we have the right to our own beliefs, our own assumptions, so forth. However, the freedom of speech, yeah, and individual freedom, yeah, we have all sorts of individual freedoms to step away from our ancient group behavior. It hasn't resulted in us being our own audience, in us acquiring embodied language. And so the conundrum of our language use, our wrong language use, because disembodied language is a group behavior, ancient group behavior, which makes us adhere to the hierarchy of the group. That conundrum has not been addressed. It couldn't be addressed because it could only be addressed if our disembodied language was stopped and recognized and then stopped. So I have done that, and I have embodied language. I have the language of my individual freedom, the language which correctly expresses my individually lived experience. And that is the language in which I, as a speaker, am my own listener. I listen while I speak. And listening is speaking. Speaking is listening. Yeah? There's no more speaking than listening going on, no more listening than speaking going on. No, I listen while I speak. They happen simultaneously at the same rate. That is the language of freedom. That is the language of the individual sovereignty. That is the language of real intelligence. As long as we are adhering to our ancient group behavior, we are not using our language correctly, and we're not using our language intelligently, sensitively, you could say consciously, knowingly, deliberately, voluntarily. We do not do that because we're not listening to ourselves. We can only use our language correctly and be intelligent and be sensitive if we hear ourselves. But we only hear ourselves if we want to hear ourselves, if we like what we're hearing. So if we as an audience of ourselves enjoy ourselves, do ourselves a favor, if we as an audience of ourselves are interested in what we're saying, then we are beginning to make sense of things. Then we are going to begin to not only create but maintain our own reality as a unique phenomenon, because now we are free and we are using our language to our own benefit. So the opposite of that is, in spite of our freedom of speech, in spite of our individual freedoms that we have here in the United States, the opposite is that we all know our place and that we don't want to rock the boat, because we don't want to get, I don't know, if you're a decent person, you don't want to get into all these arguments. You don't want to one-up each other and compete for the attention of some audience. I mean, if you have any sense at all, you don't want to be part of that. But if that reduces you to being a listener, and if that prevents you from having embodied language, then it is of utmost importance for you to begin to speak with yourself and to have embodied language by yourself, so that you can be clear about how you want to use your language. Because as long as you do not talk with yourself, you keep being determined by your history of conditioning with your disembodied language. And that history is not going to change if you are not going to change it. So you are actually, by stopping your disembodied language, they call that extinguishing your history of conditioning, you are stepping out of that history and you create actually a new history of conditioning by acknowledging that you enjoy having embodied language on your own. That's called self-reinforcement. And then as you continue with that, as you continue to sit by yourself, like I am here near this beautiful creek, and I'm going to stand here just to show you. As you do that, or as you walk on the path in the park or in the hills or wherever on the seashore, like you can go to the beach, go somewhere outside where you can be alone and talk out loud. You can acknowledge that it's very easy to speak with yourself and being your own audience. You can say what you want to say, and now you experience the automatic reinforcing effects of your embodied language. You hear it, you feel it, you can't miss it. It's beautiful, it is wonderful. And you've never said what you are saying because you couldn't say in disembodied language what you wanted to say. You couldn't appropriately express with your disembodied language your individually lived experience. But now, because you give yourself the opportunity to have embodied language, you have acknowledged your disembodied language, you have acknowledged that there's a lot you can say, but you don't want to hear it. There's a lot you can say, it bores the hell out of you. There's a lot you can say, it wears you out, it drains you, it perpetuates your problem. So after you've acknowledged that that is what your disembodied language is, you stop it. You stop it, and then finally you are beginning to have some embodied language on your own, by yourself, without anybody telling you how to have embodied language. No, you tell yourself, because you are your own audience. Do you follow what I'm saying? I hope you do, because this is what is going to make your embodied language possible. Nothing else, not me, not somebody else. You have to let yourself know. Okay, so you have to step out of this hierarchical way of using your language, knowing your place. No, you are a single individual. You are on your own. When you ride your bicycle, nobody's riding your bicycle for you. You need to keep pedaling to keep the bicycle going. Here, there's my bicycle. And so the only way in which that is going to... Hello, hi. The only way in which that is going to work is when you are continuing to move your legs and you just keep pedaling that bicycle, and then, you keep going. You just keep going. And in the same way, you just keep listening to yourself while you speak, and you just keep having embodied language. So you leave behind the structure of the hierarchical structure of disembodied language. The speaker is his own listener. You are your own listener. Yeah, if you are a woman, the speaker is her own listener. And speaking and listening occur simultaneously at the same rate. It is effortless. It is natural. You don't do anything to make that happen. You just speak and you just listen. It happens by itself. And then when you don't speak and listen, you're quiet. There is no language. Your bicycle stands still, yeah? I'm not pedaling it. I'm just standing here right now. It can't be any more clear, can it? Okay. So I'm just picking it up again from where I left it here, because I'm only very... I haven't really gotten very far with my reading. Sorry, there's so much to talk about when I read a couple of sentences. But I want to pick it up again where I left it here. So, in disembodied language, we for the most part listen more than speak, because other people, they dominate the conversation. Whereas the majority of people, they still go by this common conditioning, that they only speak when they're allowed to, and they only, have the common sense in a sense that, it doesn't make sense for us to all be part of this big argument that is going on continuously. This big struggle for attention to dominate the audience and to influence the audience. That's that's the current thing, right, with YouTube, where you have all these influencers. Don't consider me an influencer. If I am in any way influencing you, I'm influencing you to be your own audience, to be your own influencer. So I hope you do not want anymore to be in competition with others while you talk. And you don't want to have this battle for attention for some audience, right? You want to get some clicks, you want to get some likes, some love, some attention. You want to be approved, you want to be accepted. No, when you are an individual, you are on your own. You are mature, You are responsible for your own bicycle, If I have a flat tire, I have to take care of it, I'm just saying, Okay. And so now I want to switch talking about these audiences, because there are, of course, different audiences. So obviously, the criminal, if you are a criminal, the criminal only talks if he or she can win the argument from another criminal, Do you get that? Because criminals are among themselves, let's say they're in prison or something like that, And that's how criminals talk. But politicians, they only want other politicians to be their audience, right? And of course they want the voters to be their audience, But that's what they do. They have their own audience. Politicians have their own audience. And so people are only interested in saying what they're saying if their audience is going to respond. But their audience is not themselves. The politicians and the criminals, they have different audience, and they stay all in their own lane, presumably. They all stick to if you are a scientist, then your audience is other scientists. Or if you are a teacher, your audience are the students. And so that is how it seems. Presumably that is the hierarchy of disembodied language, where everybody stays in their own lane. You only spoke when spoken to, or when it is your turn, or if it is even allowed, or even if it is even appropriate to say something. But everybody is missing out on on embodied language. Because once we know about the difference between disembodied language and embodied language, we know that everyone is in essence fighting with everyone else. And everyone is constantly reducing everybody else into an audience. Yeah, that too. So we are dominating each other. We're trying to make each other listen, and if we can't get the other person to listen, we do all kind of horrible things to get the attention. And make no mistake, it is because of wanting to get the attention for our verbal behavior that we do all these horrible things, that we justify doing all these horrible things. Because everybody else tries to be in control of the narrative. And when people commit crimes, when they steal, kill, or rape, they basically say, it is my way or the highway. Yeah, we've all heard that. We've also heard that saying, hey speaker, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But who cares, right? Because that is just paying lip service to what I'm referring to. If you are going to listen to yourself while you speak, you are going to be permanently your own audience. Not just for a moment, sometimes, occasionally, and even accidentally, because we all experience moments in which things are peaceful and we are not competing, and when we are doing things well together, we're working well, we are enjoying ourselves. Nobody's trying to outdo each other. We're just doing a good job, being social. But even then, we are unaware about the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. And these moments that things are good, they last very shortly, very briefly, because once we start speaking again, it's all gone. We adhere to disembodied language by default. That is our historical way in which we have been conditioned, because we have always existed in groups. And being an individual is only something of our recent history in mankind's evolution. So I'm having embodied language and I'm my own audience, even though it seems I'm talking with you. And you, as my audience, become your own audience as well, because you're listening to someone who is his own audience. So and when you listen to yourself while you speak, it's no longer my way or the highway. No, there is only your way of talking to listen to. Yeah. and your way of talking, of course, includes others. Yeah. So when others are having embodied language with you, they're also listening to themselves. And they speak with you in the same way as they speak with themselves. They listen to you in the same way as they listen to themselves. So we are all on the same page in embodied language. We understand each other effortlessly, and we listen to each other effortlessly because there's nothing aversive going on. Yeah. So what is usually completely missed with all the atrocities, all the drama, all the tragedies that happen, all the horrible things that people do to each other, what is usually completely missed is that the perpetrators of all this violence, of all this horror, of all this disgusting hatred and destruction and horrendous things that people do to each other, all of that, it is actually about enforcing their way of dealing with language on others. It always mounts up to that. I just saw a video clip this morning of a transgender person who was being belligerent and who was freaking out against the security guard at a school, and the security guard was trying to talk with this person. That person just kept screaming and screaming. We do not realize that this whole issue of transgenderism is actually an issue of language, an issue of trying to get the attention with language. Yeah. So we are trying to force language on each other. That's why we do all these things. We have green hair, we have tattoos, we have long, colorful nails, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, we wear certain outfits. Yeah, that's why we want to look a particular way to impress others. Yeah, we virtue signal. Yeah, I have this American flag thing. I virtue signal to you that I'm a patriotic American. No, I like to let people know that it is important to be an American because America is the country of individual freedom, where this kind of way of talking possibly is going to flourish, because individualism requires embodied language. So embodied language is totally in line with the foundational principles of freedom. Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. The pursuit of happiness. Yeah, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It only makes sense with embodied language. So, again, going back again to my reading, we do not realize that all the horrible stuff that goes on in this world actually always is a conflict about language. And we are endlessly distracted from the real issue, which is language, and our incorrect way of using language, because we use our language as if it is a group behavior. And language as a group behavior is, of course, a fact of life, because that's how we have always existed. But language as an individual requires that this group behavior, which is disembodied language, that it is stopped. Because disembodied language and embodied language are binary. Yeah, binary meaning that there is no overlap between disembodied language and embodied language. Disembodied language has to be completely stopped. Yeah, this other listening has to be stopped for self-listening to begin. And when self-listening continues, then self-listening turns into other listening. And then other listening is self-listening. So the prisons are full of people who, in spite of being incarcerated, they still maintain their innocence. Yeah, you've followed the news. There are plenty of criminals. I recently heard something about this Scott Peterson who killed his wife. Yeah, he is imprisoned for life. A total sociopath or psychopath or whatever. He's a very shrewd guy, of course, and he's still claiming in his innocence. All the evidence is there that he killed her, that he drowned her, and that he went out with his boat and all that kind of stuff. It's all there. But no, he is still trying to maintain. And of course, this guy's good looking, and there's still people that are writing him letters and who somehow have become his audience. They are under his spell, so to speak, his charm. Yeah, and this is how also the sociopaths delude other people with their charisma, with their they're so interesting, or they're so attention. Presumably they deserve the attention. Everybody wants to hear them, yeah, because they say what we want to hear, yeah. They say what we as an audience feel good about, yeah. And this is how people abuse each other, yeah. They become vulnerable also to abuse, because they need that from others. They can't give it to themselves. You see how all of this ties into audiences? So the prisons are full with people who still do not want to admit that they have done horrible things. No. Why? It is because this issue of language was never properly addressed. And even in therapy, we are never addressing embodied language. Even the psychologist doesn't address embodied language. This is another weird thing that, this therapist is sitting there, the psychologist, Freud, is listening to this person who's laying on the couch, or the therapist let you speak and says, and asks you questions. How does it make you feel? And why are you saying this? And giving little prompts to get you to talk and then make you feel that you're being listened to by somebody else. No. If there's any truth to psychoanalysis, it is because that person, the analysant who is laying on the couch, if there's any truth of that, it is because this person is beginning to hear themselves. That's the issue. Is because that person becomes their own audience. Yeah. So the nature of punishment, because that is our criminal justice system, it deals with actually trying to redirect people, their behavior. That's why they call it corrections. And it's always based on punishment. People are locked up. People, their behavior is inhibited. They are in a cell. Or if they get the death penalty, there's no behavior for them anymore. They're done behaving. All behavior is stopped. That's what the death penalty is. But the nature of punishment, there's few people that know about this. But the nature of punishment, and this is of course a issue that has been very elaborately studied by behaviorists who are completely denied in academia. Behaviorism is completely ignored as if it doesn't exist. Whereas all behaviorists know that punishment of antisocial behavior, I should say, punishment of stealing, raping, and doing criminal acts and all that kind of stuff, punishment, it always inadvertently results in the person who's being punished to get better at avoiding punishment. And the satisfaction that the punisher derives from punishing other people causes the punisher to become more punishing. So, because that is control, right? You are locking them up. You are in charge. You are dominating them. You have them under your thumb. And you can literally scare the living hell out of people. And you can, of course, also extend this to dictators and to, militant regimes who are oppressing whole populations through intimidation and terror. But punishment, the nature of punishment is that the people who are being punished are getting better at avoiding punishment. And this is how, this is really an aspect of human history. This is how historically human societies have evolved and how America has actually come about. This is how we celebrated the 250th birthday of the United States, where we became independent from Britain. And in spite of that all being true, because we escaped punishment, the deviant behavior, which is now not being punished because the escape mechanism has become so effective that the deviant behavior can continue, it remains unpunished. The deviant behavior goes completely out of control. And this is how you get serial killers. This is how you get a Mao Zedong who kills millions of people, or Hitler, and societies who support that. So deviant behavior is bound to go more unnoticed with punishment, as pro-social behavior isn't even reinforced. That is another component of this picture, Pro-social behavior isn't even reinforced consistently and knowingly. So This is just such a big issue, folks, if you begin to recognize this for yourself and for others, because we're all in the same boat as a mankind. I'm just gonna go here for a second. We have not even been able to recognize that the behavior that we want, the pro-social behavior, that it requires reinforcement, positive reinforcement. And everything is based on, on what they call in behaviorism negative reinforcement, which means you are trying to avoid punishment, and that's why you behave properly. You are behaving properly. You are behaving as a driver within the speed limit because you do not want a ticket for speeding, or a ticket for riding through the red light, So you do all these things because you are. Somebody is listening here to my stuff here. I didn't notice that there's a person sitting next to me on a bench who is listening to me. But this is the problem that is going on, that people are sneaking in on each other, and I do not like that. So I'm just going to move away again. I'm going back to where I came from. Sorry. I just want to finish reading what I was writing. It's interesting that at some point I felt like I wanted to get up and look around, and lo and behold, all of a sudden I see this person sitting there. And it's not that I am against somebody listening to me or so. It's just that I don't like people sneaking up on me like that. And you always have to be aware of your surroundings, because there's many strange characters around everywhere, and I rather be cautious. There's so many homeless people also and so forth. Anyways, I want to finish what I was saying. Let me just continue here for a second. I just want to I'm just gonna go where other people are now, because I don't want to be sitting here in the bushes. I'm going to sit over there on the bleachers. That's a good spot for me to finish this this recording. Okay. This is where I am now. So, as I was just saying, that the pro-social behavior isn't reinforced consistently and knowingly without knowing the difference between disembodied language. We cannot do that. So this is my conclusion of this writing, because we don't really know, because we all per default engage in disembodied language. We don't really know what are the behaviors which are voluntary. We behave involuntarily with our disembodied language. And so we are engaged in disembodied language, language-wise, and therefore we adhere to all kind of involuntary behavior because of our disembodied language. And so we do not even know what is voluntary behavior, because we use our language incorrectly. And therefore, we do not know what is behavior which is effective for us as an individual. And we are bound to get involved in and entangled with group behavior which is involuntarily. Obviously, with embodied language, we only want to go on with voluntary behavior, Moreover, we realize that our usual disembodied language was involuntary, and yet we were always involved in it, because we didn't know the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. And we often, actually, we are continuously misunderstanding what voluntary behavior is with our disembodied language. Yeah, well, that is kind of my conclusion. Once you know the binary nature of disembodied language and embodied language, you know that you actually always wanted to have embodied language, and you never wanted to have disembodied language.